Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to the mainland United States and to Canada. We've finished Shabbat probably over in Europe area. It's probably getting dark over there, so about finishing up there. And Shabbat Shalom. I see I'm on YouTube now, and we welcome y'all to our Shabbat study. We are going to be studying Matthew 25 again this week. This time we'll be talking about the parable with the 3 servants and each getting different number of talents. And I'm gonna pray, and we're just gonna get into our study today. We've had some time chit-chatting this morning, and so sisters are well connected here this morning, and so we'll just pray and get started with our study. We'll start with also just reading through the whole chapter. I think it's important. It's all kind of connected. Abina YaHuWaH, we give all esteem to your name. We thank you for this opportunity to be together and to share your word, Father, and to discuss your word. We ask you to show us what you want us to study today, Father, what we want to be looking at. We thank you for this opportunity to learn from your word and be looking at the original source text and the language that the word was written in. And we thank you, Father, for this day of rest and for your kindnesses to us, your loving, merciful kindnesses, your covenant kindnesses, your protections, your provision, and for your guiding, for answering our every prayer, our every need. We thank you mostly for your son, Yahushua, our Mashiach, who gave us his word here in Matthew 25. In Yahushua's name we pray, amen. All right, Bonnie, are you able to bring up Matthew 25 for us? Leah, do you want to read, sister?
Yeah, I can read.
Perfect.
Give me 1 second here. Where's Where are we starting from?
We're just going to read
right
all
at the
of it.
beginning of 25?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we did some already.
We did, but I just like to read it all together because it's all kind of connected.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, okay. My page was on it. Okay. Then the reign of the Shamayim shall be compared to 10 maidens who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise and 5 foolish. Those who were foolish having taken their lamps, took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their containers with their lamps. Now while the bridegroom took time, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight a cry was heard, "See, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him." Then all those maidens rose up and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, Give us of your oil, because our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, No, indeed there would not be enough for us and you. Instead, go to those who sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. And later the other maidens also came, saying, Adonai, Adonai, open for us. But he answering said, Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, because you do not know the day nor the hour in which the Ben of Adam is coming. For it is like a man going from home who called his own servants and delivered his possessions to them. And to one he gave 5 talaton, and to another 2, and to another 1, to another 1, to each according to his own ability, and went from home. And he who had received the 5 talaton went and worked with them and made another 5 talaton. In the same way, he with also 2, he gained 2 more. But he who had received the 1 went away and dug in the ground and hid the silver of his master. And after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more besides them. And his master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy servant. Tob and trustworthy servant. You were trustworthy over a little, I shall put you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. Then he who had received the 2 talents came and said, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more besides them. And his master said to him, Well done, Tob and trustworthy servant. For you were trustworthy over a little, and I shall put you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one who had received the 1 talent also came and said, Master, I knew you had to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And being afraid, I went and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours. And his master answering said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. Then you should have put my silver in the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back with my own interest. Therefore, take away the talent from him and give it to him who possesses 10. For to everyone who possesses, more shall be given, and he shall have overflowingly. But from him who does not possess, even what he possesses shall be taken away. And throw the worthless servant out into the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And when the Ben of Edom comes in his esteem, and all the Kodesh managers with him, or messengers with him, then he shall sit on the throne of his esteem. And all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he shall put the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then the sovereign shall say to those on his right hand, Come, you Baruch of my father, inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous shall answer him, saying, Adonai, when did we see you hungry and we fed, or thirsty and gave to drink? And when did we see you a stranger and took you in, or naked and clothed? And when did we see you sick or in prison and we came to you? And the sovereign shall answer and say to them, Truly I say to you, insofar as you did it to one of these least of these my brothers, you did it to me.
Thank you.
You shall then also say to those on the left hand, sorry?
I'm sorry, I thought we were at the end, sorry.
Oh, you shall then also say to those on the left hand, Go away from me, accursed ones, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his messengers. For I was hungry, and you gave me not food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not take me in. I was naked, and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they shall also answer him, saying, Adonai, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not serve you? Then he shall answer them, saying, Truly I say to you, insofar as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into everlasting life.
Thank you, Leah.
Life.
Yeah. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Leah. And thank you, Christy, for heading over to YouTube for us. We appreciate that, sister. It's such a beautiful way to serve the Father. Like, it's something you're great at, Christy. So I want to acknowledge that, and we appreciate you for doing that for us, sister. It's great to have somebody over there. And you can also, because haven't linked into our Zoom, you can pop in and let us know, because sometimes we get really busy with what we're studying and we're not over there. So yeah, we're going to start here with the 5 talents. And we were talking earlier about how these two stories are just kind of like YaHuWaH ends one story in Matthew 25 verse 13. Watch therefore, because you do not know the day nor the hour in which the Son of Adam is coming. And then we go into, for it is like a man going from home who called his own servants and delivered his possessions to them. So he's going home. We know who that is. That's YaHuWaH. He's going home. And he's calling his servants and delivers his possessions to them. Interesting that one of them is trusted with 5 talents, one with 2, and to another 1. And it says each according to his own ability. So it's not like just some random, okay, well, pull the straw, you got the short end of the stick deal. It's according to his own ability that the master gives his servants the talents to watch over. And we have to recall also that they're the master's possessions. They don't belong to the servants. I was telling somebody yesterday, it's like what I have here, I'm just the manager of. I'm the manager of what belongs to YaHuWaH. And that helps me a lot. If I suffer a loss, then I believe the Father is going to cover the loss. Or if I have a vehicle that needs a repair and I don't have the funds for it, then I believe the Father, it's his car. He will provide what needs to be brought in to take care of his car. It's a great way of me processing what is happening around me, is that I just serve him and it's all his stuff. If somebody breaks in and takes his stuff, then it's his stuff that got stolen. He has to deal with it because he's the master. That really helps me. I don't know how y'all feel, but that helps me a lot.
I see it also as like witnessing and that sort of thing too, like not just a matter of possessions, but what we've done with what wisdom and knowledge and you know, what he's, even our testimony, you know, of being out there and sharing that. And you know, do we just keep it to ourselves? Do we try to show other people the way to the kingdom? You know, that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, that according to his own ability is
In our
very-
testimony.
sorry. According to his own ability is a very powerful. These are very powerful words, according to his own ability, which he made us. He knows what our ability is,
Right.
what our talents are, so to speak, are.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like my reality is obviously very different than, for instance, Leah's reality. Leah's living in Canada. Right now she's dealing with snow. I deal with an avocado seed practically on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. It's like, well, what do I do with this seed? Like, I think like a farmer. I think about planting the seed, and in 5 years it's going to grow up and be a fruit tree, or I could throw it in the trash. It's like I deal with things at a farming level usually. Like, that's more about where I'm at. Obviously I'm doing ministry too. I'm right here today. And I think about ministry all the time. I was sharing with the sisters this morning when I woke up this morning. I woke up and I got to bed really late last night, but I woke up this morning. I had set my alarm for like an hour later, but I woke up to the trill of crickets, and it was just like the sweetest little, almost like a lullaby. I was like, wow, I live in the most amazing place. I'm being serenaded by these sweet little soft crickets being woken up out of a deep sleep. And I mean, I'm still tired. You can probably see it on my face, but it just woke me up in just the most amazing way. I have a different, Leah's not going to be woken up by crickets probably today. She's got snow. She might be woken up by the sound of ice falling off a roof, or even, I think you can even, if I recall, because I used to live in Utah.
Snowplow, 5 a.m.
Snowplow, 5 a.m. See,
Snowplow,
that's
5 a.m.
but I think I can remember in Utah actually waking up to the falling of soft snow, or at least visually it was there. That's a beautiful way to wake up. And so we have different experiences, we have different abilities. And I think the thing is that we wake up and we think about the Father, and we process our day, the gifts we have each day. What do you want me to do, Father? How can I serve you today? And I think that is a big verse, a big key verse. We don't all have the same skills and the same abilities, but we are expected to be.
I was just going to say, and what good is any of it if we don't know how to love on people, like how to love each other or love others and demonstrate his love, right?
Yes.
To other people as well, right? Because people are watching, people are watching. Yeah. And even just what I witnessed at the Bible camp, I was like, wow. Is this really how are they going to treat the Mashiach when he comes? When they, just don't want to hear anything or know anything, just you're in a cult kind of thing, right? So that's not love.
Okay, we have.
Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, we had
Oh.
no sound there. Your sound went off, Leah. What happened? I just wanted to say hello to Marie over in live chat. She's saying she woke up to her rooster. I wake up to kookaburras. So funny when even the wildlife thinks that the morning and the evening are funny. It makes you smile. And Darla's gone on. Well, Darla's gone as well. And we need to say hello to Sandra, who's here with us in Zoom this morning from now. Where are you? North of Sydney somewhere.
Gosford.
Sorry?
Gosford?
Gosford, yeah.
Central Coast region.
Yeah, so yeah, Marie's over there in chat. She's in Brisbane. And Christy's over there in live chat too now. Hey, thank you, Christy. Get the links happening before we can get it all happening. All right, so what stood out? We read the whole chapter of Matthew 25 again, but what stood out? Getting the whole context again, including the wise and foolish virgins at the beginning. And now we've got the parable of the talents. And we were talking before we started, we were talking about they've got the numbers there, 5, 2, and 1, and whether that had any significance. We wondered about that. So we went on a little bit of a rabbit trail on Google to find out if that was anything in particular, and we were thinking Fibonacci sequence, but no, we didn't get there. So if anyone can find for us the any significance in the numbers, because we know that when
I was thinking the 5 foolish and 5 wise, that makes 10. So the guy who had 5 talents doubled his to 10. So the 10 was whole. it was,
Ah,
so the 10, the 5 became the 10, which was 5 not wise versions. So you've got the 10 full, and then so you've got a total there of what, 15. Got 15 talents that the master, who there was some place in there, it said he was gone a very long time, or it seemed to be something on words. It's like he was gone a really long time.
there you go, verse 19.
Yeah, after a long time. After a long time. That's interesting to me. I mean, a long time. So the master came back. So, it's talking about the master coming back, which to me, that means YaHuWaH coming back. And then above that, we've got the master, the father himself coming with the groom, talking about the wise, 5 wise and 5 not wise versions, and the father coming back at midnight. And they didn't know what time it's going to be. Well, this one actually says at midnight, but they didn't know. It was a surprise, and he came at midnight. So this one seems like it's a surprise too, but it was the only clue we have here, it seems, is after a very long time, or after a long time. The master came and settled the accounts with them. So settling of accounts is sort of like settling your life accounting. What'd you do with your life? What'd you do with your talents? What'd you do with what you could have done for me?
I thought it was interesting that the Tove and faithful servants got a 100% return, which reminds me of the parable of the sower.
Yeah.
Get at some point, but yeah. And the third servant was afraid.
Yeah. He was afraid.
That struck me.
Yeah, me too. He wouldn't risk it. Like, I'm not a risk taker, really. Not a risk taker. I'd rather go for the sure thing.
Right.
But it's like you have to step out and risk a little bit,
Well, yeah, look at the next verse. It's like, well, it's not because of fear. He's being called wicked and lazy.
Yeah. So being afraid, does that
Says
make
he
us
was
wicked and
afraid.
lazy?
Yeah. He says he was afraid. It's like, well, I was afraid, so I hid it. But and this kind of takes me back to the garden. We were afraid because we heard your voice coming.
And we went and hid.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of takes us back to the garden right there. Where's Teza? Back to the garden.
Back to the garden.
Yeah, and but the master's saying, you wicked and lazy servant. He's calling it like it is, not like how the person sees it is.
So
you were explaining it is.
You were fearful, and you didn't search it out. You just buried it.
Yeah.
You didn't search it out how you could grow it.
Wow.
Wait a minute. You knew that I reap where I have not sown. Wait a minute. Okay, let's break that down. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed.
Terry, this reminds me so much of the conversation we were just having before we came online. We were talking about, I had listened to this really is an answer for me, by the way, on this. We were talking about how I had listened this week to a Christian radio channel. It's one of those things where I come in the middle of the show because I'm on my way from one errand to another, and I'm just going to listen on my way to town and back to this radio channel. So I'm in the middle of the show when I come in, and there is a couple of Christian guys, and they were talking about why they didn't like the Chosen series. So we just had a sort of a healthy debate about the two sides of it. An article was brought up, 14 reasons why I won't watch The Chosen, and we did some. So we looked at that, and then we looked at a lot of the comments. So we got a lot of healthy dialogue there and our own interactions to it. And there are some definitely some theological issues with that series. They even have a statement in there that they're not looking to be scriptural as much as to get an audience, to basically, from just throw in a paraphrase here of my own, is basically they're looking to tickle the ears. They're looking to gather an audience, not necessarily make it scriptural. So what one of Terry's points is, hey, at least people, Terry could probably say it better than me, but basically the idea was that at least people are watching and they have interest where there was none before. They were just so far removed from truth that, they need milk to drink that is palatable for them. That's got a lot of sugar in it. And so here this is an answer for me on that debate. I like the idea of healthy debate, some for, some against. One of the SDA, Seventh-day Adventist comments said, hey, if it was the SDA, we couldn't even agree if the cast and crew could have coffee or not, so and that was somebody in support of watching The Chosen. So here it's saying, you knew that I reap where I have not sown. So this is an answer to me on The Chosen, a personal answer. And we'll put in the description a link to that 14 reasons. And I would definitely recommend not only read them and understand where they're coming from, but also read the comments. But if and where there is something that is not scripturally aligned, this is saying, you knew that I reap where I have not sown. So for me, this is excellent. From the Father, a word to me on this Chosen series. And gather where I have not scattered seed. Lovely. And he says, you could have at least put my silver with the bankers. At least I would have. By the way, that is not much. That's not much of a requirement. What are you going? You're probably going to lose value because of the interest you're going to get. Oh my gosh, with inflation, that money might be worth less these days. But maybe
we can go down that rabbit hole as much as we like, but that may not be the best option these days. Hey?
Yeah, we could do more. We could to please our master, the Most High, the Almighty. We could at least do a little research and say, where could I invest this and make something back? Because that's what the other two did, the first two.
And would we get in trouble by being done by scammers? Or or the bank's folded and they've gone to digital currency and
yeah. At least we know that they're bankers and they weren't scammers. And again, maybe they had better bankers back in those days.
I think it's interesting that he said he calls it my silver, and then he calls it its talents above that, one talent. And then he how many, what's a talent? What's a talent? Well, I mean, we know what a talent is, and I think that's applicable talent in English. What's a talent? A talent is a gift that's given to you, or you develop this talent. But then it is specifically silver. So I wonder what the equation of how much silver is there in a talent.
It goes back to even the breath in our lungs isn't ours to own.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is to YaHuWaH. He's given us everything. Terry, are you able to bring up the Aramaic?
Yeah, let me get over to my chair here. Okay, so you all want Matthew 25.
Matthew 25.
I've got a Google search on how much silver in a talent, if you're interested.
Yeah,
That is interesting.
1 gram, a talent. What is
1 gram.
2 ways to calculate the value of its talents? Convert Old Testament weights. We want like a conversion thing, don't we? That's why you can. Talent converter. The largest unit of weight in Old Testament Israel was the talent. The Hebrew word is kikar. The word talent is from the Greek unit of weight talenton and the Latin talentum, which was roughly equivalent to the Hebrew kikar. In the Old Testament, the talent is often used to weigh gold and silver. Yeah, tell us. Okay, that one didn't help. Might be better off just going to the commentaries. What have you got, Terry?
Okay, I've got talent here is right here, 1001. Talents, plural. 5 talents.
Oh, I've got another thing here on Google saying a silver talent equals 1 troy ounce.
Oh, 1 troy ounce. Okay, so
Wow,
silver,
so that's, yeah,
I think
that's something
silver
we can
is,
relate to today.
yeah, silver is still in troy ounces. I think you can get it like 99.9% troy ounces. Isn't that right?
Yep.
For
There we
troy.
Yep.
That is interesting because Greek and Troy, and that's interesting. Okay, so we've got talents right here, as in 5 talents. Gave another man, each according to his power. Each according to his power.
Hmm.
That's interesting. To his power, to his mighty work, its power, the import, the mighty work, according to
Wow. Mighty
his
work.
according to his mighty work. Wow.
Look, that kind of looks like the name Kayla.
Kayla.
It does, yeah.
So what does Kayla mean? Here? This, didn't you name, don't you have a child named Kayla?
I have one named Kaylin.
Kaylin, okay.
But this
Okay.
is like Michael, Michaela
Mhm.
thing. That is like, but this is a chet. This is Kyle. This is, we used to have a male goat. When we got him as a baby, he wasn't very strong. And so I named him Kyle. And he became a strong boy.
That's interesting. According to his power, and he
Oh.
went.
Oh, sorry. I just found something on Wikipedia about the talent. I'll share it with you when you finish, Terry.
Terry, before you go, can we go back to the word for talent then? We didn't get to go all the way to the bottom there in the lexeme and so on and so forth.
Talent. Okay, we've got talents, plural, which I think it's just talent. Let's see. Talents, talent. So
And-
what you wanted? Yeah.
Yeah, does it go any below that?
No.
That's okay, that's it. Okay,
Greek. Got some Greek.
just tell us talent.
Yeah, talent, 5 talents. And here's the same one. Okay, gained 5 talents with the other. Let's see. He gained 2.
So it really kind of gives you the idea that it is related to their skill and their ability, their talents.
Yeah, they're talents. Yeah. But then it goes to silver. It goes to the actual, that it goes to monetary.
Yeah,
It goes from physical and, ruach driven gifts, the gifts that he's given us. That have you improved? Have you used those talents? Have you grown those talents I made you, I formed you with? Or are you just keeping them to yourself?
This is
And
why
it's
I always feel like I failed. When I think of the monetary part, I just think, wow, I could have done so much more and had more wisdom with, like, yeah, it's just,
Well,
I think
sister, his mercies are new every morning. Like, it's like, let's go. It's on. Today is today. We can seize the day, and you can go dig up what you put in the ground, so to speak, and do something with it today. He's definitely built into you talents, and you can do something with it today.
yeah,
thanks, sisters.
I feel the same way, Leah. Sometimes you're not alone.
I think we all feel that way. I think
Yeah, we all do.
Wow. Yeah, it's like, wow, look what I did with my life. I've done this, that, and the other, or I didn't do this, that, and the other. And that's what repentance is about, which is to turn and go back to the Father. He's going to meet us like the prodigal son when we're, well still down the road, but he sees us on our way back, and we're not there yet, but he sees us, and his heart is to run and throw his arms around us and accept us right where we're at, and then bring us on in.
Yeah, but when he comes after a long time and he sees that we've only kept it to ourselves and buried it and it's a serious thing. We're called wicked,
Yeah, it's completely different if you wait until it's too late. Then it's a completely different story. You didn't, that's somebody that didn't turn.
Ooh, we've got
But this is after much time. After much time.
over in the live chat, we've got a bit of a discussion going on about fear is sin, Marie had said. We've also got Tezza's there. Hi, Tezza. Shalom, everyone.
Australia.
A one talent person just did not care about what the master gave. Whoa, okay. And then Christy's saying, I believe the one talent person was afraid of losing the talent, so he buried it so he could retrieve it when it was due. Yeah, as Yeshua told him, he could have at least put it in the bank and get usury. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Father, even though he personally calls it that he was afraid of his master, so he didn't want to lose the master, however, says you were wicked and lazy.
Yeah. But what do we think about the idea? There's somebody over there in the live chat called Ambassador of YaHuWaH, which is a lovely title. Says, interesting, usury is very bad in the Hebrew way of life. So just how do you know? That's the biggest thing for me. It's like, how do you know that what you're doing is the Tov way? Putting our money in the bank at the moment is not really seen as the best thing to do.
Well, it goes back to the 10 virgins. They didn't increase the oil. They had X amount of oil, the foolish ones, and they didn't increase.
And Marie, another rabbit hole. Does the
other way?
Does the 2 talents represent 2,000 years?
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, Marie.
I don't. That would be hard for me to wrap my mind around, because what is the 5? I mean, the five got doubled. But again, there's that concept of 50-50, right? I mean, this one's sort of 50 in the opposite direction. It's like, as Bonnie said, 100% increase, 100% increase. So you've 5, now they got 10.
Yeah, you've got 50%, and you get another 50%. It's like, okay.
He's getting a total of 15 talents back. He invested what, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So
I'm just gonna put this
about
out there so I don't forget.
Yep.
But you also have to think about the people that that kind of lose other people's faith by either making them, like fear, instead of showing that he's a loving father, they make him out, like just, like people with that religious spirit or, don't have love in them and that sort of thing as well. Right. So when he says that, that you were, I heard that you were a harsh father, so I was afraid kind of thing. Right. So, there's people that, well, for example, my mother grew up in the whole Catholic school system and all of that. And the nuns used to smack rulers over their knuckles and, all kinds of stuff. They were terrified of God. And a lot of them, as soon as they got out of school, they just kind of went the opposite way and ran from him because they couldn't see him as a loving father. So you've got people that are actually turning people away and causing some to just be so afraid of him. Well, that person is still accountable, even though somebody else was the one that kind of destroyed their faith or whatever, right? So
Hey, Terry, can I
just
screen?
With a specific parable here, and we're dealing with 3 specific servants who the master, in this case it's YaHuWaH, he's talking about himself, he left each one according to their ability, according to their talents. We don't know about all the other servants that weren't even given that talent to watch over and to that the master would expect a return on. But in this particular parable, we are dealing with a master that expects a return on his investment. And he's being called that he's I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen to help me with my scriptures I'm looking for here. So in verse 24, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And his master says, you knew, he doesn't say that I'm a hard man, but maybe from the wicked servant's perspective, and he is called a wicked servant and a lazy servant. He said, he doesn't say I'm hard. Maybe that's not the master's perspective, that I'm hard, but he says, you knew that I reap where I've not sown and gather where I've not scattered seed, verse 26. So he calls himself that. I reap where I've not sown, I gather where I've not scattered seed. Then you should have put my silver with the bankers, and at my coming, I would have received back my own with interest. So we are being shown that this is a master who he gave these talents according to each one's ability. And there were 3 here, and there weren't 5. We don't know what happened to number 4 and 5. Maybe they just weren't even trusted with these things. But these particular 3, they were to be trusted with what they were given. And he says, I would have received back my own with interest. So he is interested in a return on his investment. And then, of course, he does take it away from him. But the interesting thing is he doesn't just take it and say, okay, that's mine now, but he gives it, there's a settling of accounts, but those people are still moving forward with what YaHuWaH has given them, plus what they've earned.
So the most profitable servant ended up with a bonus of 10%.
Yeah, maybe it's a bit of I love you right where you're at, but I love you too much to leave you where you're at when I can give you abundant life. I can give you so much more than you have right now. So here's your beginnings, what we're going to start with. Here's what I'm leaving you with. Well, I'm gone. You do something with this. This is definitely not a father and beloved child parable as much as it is a master talking to his servants and what he expects.
Oh, have you, no, Darla's gone silent on us again. What has happened?
I'm here. I just
Oh.
went silent. That's all.
Okay. Oh dear.
The other two servants were thrilled. They were thrilled to say, hey, see, you gave me this and see, I've gained, for instance, 2 more. I gained 5 more besides what you gave me.
I'll just put that up a little bit. Just so we get the other guys as well. See.
With each one, he's saying in verse 21 and in verse 23, well done, Tob and trustworthy servant. You were trustworthy over a little, I shall put you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. So, I mean, that's just beautiful.
That's beautiful, yeah.
He says the same thing to both of them, the first 2. So he had, again, we talk about the percentage. This time it's not 50-50 because, by the way, we have 3, not 4 to work with here, or 2 to work with. So now here's a 66% of the servants that the master leaves the talents with. 66% did a great service to his master. But there's always that one,
In every family, there's one. Oh dear.
YaHuWaH gives us all of the resources, he cares for us, he provides for us, he nurtures us. He's taking care of his servants. This is not a slave perspective that we've grown up with in our heads of what a slave is like. This is someone who chooses to serve his master. The master takes care of him and he serves the master. But this one, the one didn't. He's gonna hide what he's been given into the ground so he can give it right back when he comes back. And that's just not what the master is looking for. That's kind of how I see it. How do you see it, Leah? Or Terry, anybody?
I see it that YaHuWaH is on so many different levels that it's, it's finances, it's sowing into the kingdom, either financially or, being a good witness.
Yeah.
I know, many times that I have not been a good witness, and I've thought about this scripture. So I think, everything in scripture has so many different levels and meanings to it. So I see this, not just in a financial way. I see it also as sowing seeds into the kingdom for it to grow as well, not just financially.
There's some kind of a big time deeper meaning, because in verse 14 it goes, for it is like a man who went on a journey. He's explaining about the virgins. So I'm just trying to figure out what the full connection is. You've got 5 talents, 5. There's got to be some kind of big time connection, because he's connecting it there in verse 14. Man who went on a journey. So in verse 19, it's now after a great time the master came, when before the great time was from the betrothal until the time the house was completed, which I think that means our mansions are built and ready, and the bridegroom calls, the bridegroom comes. Now, after a great time, I think that's really interesting, a great time.
There's some talk in the live chat about representing the picture here, representing spiritual growth. The talent as representing spiritual growth. What?
Well, and the oil is light, so we're called to be light and salt. Salt was actually something that was valuable in its weight, had value.
We want to look at the Greek on this word for talents?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if salt was being measured or being, had a value for its weight. Because, we're called to be salt. I wonder if it actually had a value at that time, if it was valued. Oh, no, it wasn't. At one time, salt was measured and had a value. Salt was very valuable.
That's what I've seen, that salt was very valuable.
So we're salt light. Light clay. He buried it too, didn't he? That one, he buried it in the dirt. Like he buried it in himself. He buried it in the clay. He didn't spread it. He buried it within himself. Yeah, are you looking at it in Greek?
Wow.
It sort of lines up with what I found over here in Wikipedia as well. You're looking at kilograms of body weight. A body weight of so it's like you're burying yourself. Oh dear.
Yeah.
So it's about 72 pounds.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The number 72 is interesting.
It says 75 here.
Oh,
But
Yeah, the others are greater.
that's close enough. Yeah, different in different countries.
6,000 denarii.
Yeah, it's a fortune.
3,000 shekels. Okay.
And it
So-
would have been something quite big and heavy and obvious that you had it. In that case, does that make sense?
Yeah.
How does that equate? How does that run over to the 1 ounce troy?
Yeah. I was trying to. Because that was the Troy. It was talking about Troy ounces here as well.
Yeah, it says in February of 2016, the price of silver was about $15 a troy ounce. But it certainly hasn't come up much from that.
Troy ounce is definitely not, 72 pounds.
Okay,
No.
so this is saying just below that, Bonnie, and just below what you've got highlighted in blue, it says at this price, a talent would be worth about $1,400,000.
Wow.
Wow.
That's huge. That is huge.
That's a lifetime's earning for us now, and a fortune if you had it all at once.
Yeah, a lifetime's earning. That's interesting, Bonnie. A lifetime earning. There's a lifetime
But
earning.
you're talking about something that is so big that how do you it's going to be obvious that you've got it, and it's going to be obvious that you've done something with it. If you go bury it in the field, remember that one of the historical things that I first learned to love studying the scriptures was the pearl of great price.
Yeah.
The man went and sold the field and went and bought the field, and because he found something of value, and that was how they did banking back then. So when it's the master says you could have put my money with the bankers and got an usury, burying something was a form of banking back then. So I don't understand.
Was it banking or hiding?
Well, yeah, there's more to it. There's more to it. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. There's
yeah.
just more to it here than the surface.
Yeah, there's a lot to the one keeping everything to himself, selfish, greedy. You know, he knew he had a talent. He knew he had a lot of money. He knew he had a lifetime saving, but he didn't share it. You know, he didn't do anything. He just kept it to himself. And he was called wicked. Wicked, and what was the other
Yeah,
word?
wicked and lazy. It's
Wicked
like,
and lazy.
and I'm like, what?
Wicked and lazy.
Where is it? Wicked and lazy.
Well, you know,
Being
you're gonna.
afraid. It goes
Yeah,
back to
I mean,
being
I'm afraid. I don't like to.
yeah.
I don't invest in
You're
stock market.
given. Okay. The whole point here is that we're given something from the Father. Hang on, where is it? According to his ability, right? And the master goes away. So there's a whole nother rabbit hole here about what do you do when nobody's looking. Now, it reminds me of the parable of when the was it the vineyard, and the master sends his servant, and the people tending the vineyard beat up the servant, and then eventually they killed the servant. He said, "No, the master's never coming back." No, it's got a similar sort of connotations to it in this one.
They killed his son. Yeah.
Yeah. There's prophetic stuff in that one, but I don't know where that is in scripture off the top of my head, but yeah.
Well, 10 talents would have been
Dug in the ground.
incredible fortune. It would have been
Yeah.
just an amazing fortune, and you couldn't hide that. You couldn't bury that much money. You know, it's like if you had that much money, everybody would know you had that much money. People would know
Well,
you were a very wealthy man.
But you're wealthy because of what the Father's given you.
Right.
And then the Father will come back one day, and you don't know the day, and call you to account for what he has entrusted you with. That's
Mhm.
the picture, I think.
Yes, that's the picture.
That's
And
what I mean about
Oh, look at
being a
this.
witness.
And he who received the 5
Right.
talents went and worked with them. We are called to work with our talents. But what if we're so bogged down in daily life that we don't even realize, A, that we have talents, or B, what those talents are? And this whole idea of digging in the ground and hiding something that we were called to work with. I just think there's hang on, I'm going over to live chat. Marie said, because he didn't share what he had, he kept it to himself. Okay, so if you go and dig something in the ground and you hide it, something happens to you and you die. Nobody gets anything.
Right.
I'm thinking of like, you know, older people at the moment and like hiding things under the mattress or in paint cans. Somebody said to me this week, and I'm like, yeah, just if nobody knows about that, it's gone.
Well, I get the sharing concept, but I don't know that is here in the story.
Yeah.
As much as making an investment. And by the way, $1,400,000 is quite the investment to make. I could see why
Yeah.
you was interested in, from what I've seen in his word, he's interested in multiplication. And we've got the word going out, the parable about the word, and it falls on the 4 different soils. And then there's the harvest of one kind of seed on that soil. And, there's that one is the one that is preferred by the master, that it's growing up to bring in a huge harvest. It's a multiplicity.
Ability there. It's making me think.
I'm just thinking, I just wanted just to have a look at some of these other words in here.
Oh, dynamic.
word
It was a
that- it's
dynamic.
dynamic.
Yeah.
Power,
Yeah.
might, ooh,
Wow.
this word.
Energy,
Miraculous.
power, physical power, deeds, and marvelous works. Okay, this is making me think of the gifts of the Ruach, what he's given us as talents. Are we using our gifts? Because he doesn't give Bonnie the same as he gives me. He doesn't give the same. Are we using them? So they're going to be different.
His
Yeah.
miracles, so his talents, our ability.
If we
Those are-
bring our best efforts to the Father, what will he do with, he says that he's going to barak or bless the work of our hands. So that's a working, it's doing something. It's not just bearing it or sitting on it, not idle, not being idle, not being, because he calls that wicked, by the way, but that we're doing what we can with what he's given us, with what he's entrusted us with.
Yeah, and most people know what their gifts are. People know what
Do
the
they?
gifts
Do
are.
they?
No,
No,
I'm going to say that that's
I
one thing that I
disagree.
like.
Oh no,
That's
I
one
think
thing that I do like about the Christian church. Coming into the Christian church was always, they were like, okay, well, let's, try and seek a little further to see what your gifts are, because it says in scripture, to some they're teachers, to some that
Yeah,
they're like prayer
yeah.
warriors, and some people don't know that they're intercessors. That society classifies them as schizophrenic because they pick up on other people's feelings,
Yeah, but
and then
if
they
you're-
medicate them. These are intercessors. These are people that have that gift, and yet society has labeled them as something that's negative, right? So when you go into the church system, usually what they'll do is help lead you and guide you into what are your talents. What gifts has Father provided you with, and let's, get that to grow. At least some of the churches that I went to.
Yeah, but I think you innately know that some of your gifts and talents, because you have validation in that it's
but
growing. It's
yeah,
growing.
You need to be told. You need to be told. One thing that I had sort of worked out a long time ago was there's 2 questions. What do other people say you're good at? And what gets you up and going? Somebody knocked on the door and said to you, right, we're off to do this, and you'd be up and you'd be, yeah, let's have at it. They're the 2 questions you need to be looking at to work it out.
What do you feel like those are for you, Bonnie, for instance? Or if you don't want to do somebody else.
Yeah, I'm like helping people, encouraging people, and I don't know what people tell me I'm good at. I haven't thought about it in a little while, but Dale, what do you think I'm good at? Talking. I'm good at talking.
Well, you make good cornbread.
No, I don't.
No, I'm teasing. I don't know.
One thing I'm not good at is, or Tovad is
Well,
cooking.
Darla's a great teacher. Bonnie, you're a good teacher. You're a good leader.
Yeah, well, and this is some of the feedback I've been getting over the last couple of years, and it's like, okay, I'll do more of that. That's exciting to me. That's like I can't wait to get online or in with the Discord guys and go, okay, look what we found now. And that's exciting. And that's, I think, even though it feels like I'm not really using a talent, I'm definitely not getting paid for any talent lately, but it's like, okay, I'm still calling myself lazy and wicked because I'm not exercising enough. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, what?
It's exercising a
What's it
gift
all-
of the Ruach. No.
No. So there you go. So what's it all about? These life questions, these deep life questions, we need to ask them, and we need to seek out what it means for each of us.
Yeah, power, strength, mighty, wonderful works. I mean,
I was laughing in the live chat over there. We've got the word the force here. Use the force, Luke. You know, it's like,
Use the force.
well, that's true though. I mean,
what's your superpower? Mine is being cold all the time. Or you know, I can use the force and open electronic doors when I go to the store. But I'm sure there's there's deeper meaning to it all. Deeper, much, it's about layers. It's onions, ogres have layers. Onions have layers.
Well, Bonnie, can we go look at Jeremiah 33, 2 and 3?
Okay.
Because we were just talking about how people don't know what their power is or their talent. And this brought up this verse in my mind all of a sudden.
So what was the address again?
33 verses 2 and 3.
Yeah. So how do we recognize our talents? That is the burning question here today.
So it says in verse 2, because he's talking to YaHuWaH's talking in verse 1, 2, YaHuWaH or Jeremiah.
Yep.
And actually it says a second time, and he shut up court of the guard. And so he's being held as a prisoner there, but he says, thus said YaHuWaH who made it, YaHuWaH who formed it to establish it. YaHuWaH is his name. Call unto me, and I shall answer you and show you great and inaccessible matters which you have not known. The great and inaccessible things. So we've not known them. So this is one of the things, is what are our talents? If we've not known what our talents are, he was going to show us these things that have been accessible to us when we call on him, call on his name. He tells you who is his name.
and maybe these talents are layered. I'm sorry.
Can anybody attest to YaHuWaH showing them more since they've started calling on his name or started keeping his shot?
I can totally. I can, since I came to this class. I've always studied my script, my Bible, but I've never been into breaking down each letter of the Hebrew and seeing the richness of it all, where it's just absolutely thrilling. So, he called me to him. He knew me before I was born, and he called me to him, and his name is written in me, but it's been like a layer. He called me to as a baby. I drank milk for a long time, but now I like meat. I like it. I like to go deep. I like it.
Yeah.
And that's what I pray for. So that had to be layered. You can't start off chewing meat. You can't do that. You can't digest it. So how could I witness to other people? How could I share? How could I teach? How could I show? How could I be excited? That's a layered thing. I had to start with milk.
Yeah, you can't just pour 5 gallons of milk on them too. You're in their mouth, YaHuWaH, but YaHuWaH says, open your mouth wide and I will fill it. So YaHuWaH can do it, and we trust YaHuWaH to do his work there. He says to call on his name and he's going to answer you. So we got to take him at his word. That's what I'm feeling. We take him at his word.
And also, yeah, darling, also his name. I didn't know his name. But now, the power and just calling on his name, sometimes I'm broken and I don't even know what to pray for. And he knows that. And he said, he gives me an angel. He gives me a messenger who's always interceding for me. And sometimes I just call on his name, YaHuWaH, YaHuWaH, YaHuWaH. He knows. So, but to know I'm calling upon his name, that I know his name. Hey, we know each other. So that means a lot more to me when I understood and it clicked that his name is not a Greek name. His mother did not call him by a Greek name. That was a big light bulb that of course she didn't, you know, that. So yeah, I learned, I layer upon layer upon layer. Precept on precept.
And look,
Yeah.
here's this word known. Here's this word known here again that we had in oh, hang on. If I change screens, I'll lose the annotation. But remember in Matthew 25, we had there, well, you knew that I gathered where I didn't. Hang on, where is it?
Yeah, that's in verse 26. You knew
26.
that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed.
You knew. Yeah. And so we're talking here about the knowledge, and it's only, the knowledge only comes when we call on him, and then he shows us. So where does that sit with people? How do we, you know, I have a beautiful elderly friend who says there are only two prayers. You know, I love you. He says Yahweh, I'll say YaHuWaH. I love you. Teach me how to pray. That's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I had one he gave me last year.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to pray, but something in me wanted to pray, and I didn't know what to pray for, but I knew I needed to pray. I knew I needed to reach out to him, and he gave me the words of the prayer. Help me.
Yeah. There you go. Marie is saying in the chat here, I asked him to show me truth, and he did. Wow. That's big. Emuna. It's just like that's, yeah.
And I've gotten to where I'll lose something, I'll lose track of something. That's real easy for me. I'm like the absent-minded professor for sure. I can only hold up so much. I'm actually going to start taking a supplement for my brain, maybe even 2 of them. I've got kind of, but I mean, like, it's a big deal to me. My son's looking at me and he's like, Mom, are you getting dementia? And I'm like, no, I just let go of the stuff I don't need to focus on. I stay focused on what I do need to stay on. But I'll lose stuff out. Where's the keys? Where's my purse? This, that, and the other. Where's the phone? Where's the charger to the phone? And I'll just pray. Where's Ashland's birth certificate? He's going for his license. What did we saw it 4 months ago. I stuck it in the baggie. Where did it go? I'll pray, and you will answer that prayer pretty dang quick. Pretty quick. The last time I remember having a prayer, oh boy. My daughter had needed a new iPad, and I was like, Kaylin, I have one that I didn't buy that long ago. It's basically brand new. I bought it like a year ago, and you could just use that one. She was like, okay, Mom. And so I go looking for the iPad, and I cannot find this iPad. It's been that long since I've seen it. I'm looking everywhere for this iPad, just basically brand new. And I pray about it, and I'm on my way to town to do something else I got to do. And I prayed about it, and I would say like 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, who answers me? I'm off the property. He's like, you gave it to Judah 6 months ago when his iPad died. Oh, it was just, it's wonderful. It's just wonderful to have him to help me in my weakness, because my brain is not, like I said, absent-minded professor all over me. But he helps me. He helps me get through my day, and I dedicate my day to him. Whatever you want me to do, Father, today, show me what you want me to do. And I'll end up in stuff that I had I couldn't have dreamt that's what I was doing today, but that's what's happening. So I've already been through a little bit of that this morning with my mic off here. I had some teenage drama. Mom didn't sleep well. My 18-year-old didn't sleep well. And he's getting into everybody's business. I mean, we've all been scruffed up by him today emotionally, and just like, I'm just here trying to lick wounds over that. It's like, I don't even know what's coming my way, but I know I've got to smooth all the relationships out by the end of the morning here or whatever.
Della, what's the situation with the new calf? Have you got your new calf yet?
No, we don't have the new calf yet. I did a little video yesterday and put it up late last night. She's having some like discharge, which is like the beginning of the plug coming out. And she's just taking her time. The babies, I think if a baby calf is born too early, their hair hasn't grown up enough to protect them from the sun. So it's like, stay in there. The thing is, we don't know what day she actually got pregnant. It's a bad record keeping for me. If I'm not aware that they're in heat, then I can't make a record. So I have to really kind of keep my eyes on them. And if I see any cows jumping on each other, I know somebody's in heat and I need to write it down. So we have an idea. One time we thought she had gone way too far, but turns out she wasn't pregnant at all, and I got hurt in the process. So, but YaHuWaH sustained me through that injury, but I learned some valuable lessons. We're still waiting is the short answer.
So see, now we're talking about talents. Yeah. I don't know how many hats you have, Dalla, but just.
Yeah, breeding cows is one of the hats I wear, and I feel called to it. I feel called. These two breeds we have are belted breeds, and one is on the critical list and one is on the watch list. The belted Galloways are on the watch list. It's a beef cow. It's also a dual purpose cow. And then the Dutch belted are dairy cows. They're on the critical list for extinction. So it's just something I don't know where I got the farm gene, but I got it. I got it big. So we multiply around here. And YaHuWaH's going to do what he's going to do with it. They need feed. They need more land. So I don't know, but I know they're going to need more land to stretch around and eat. They're eating machines. It's like a refrigerator turned horizontal, and they just eat and eat and eat. But anyway, love our cows, and yeah, we're waiting for a baby. YaHuWaH willing, it will be a girl this time.
Need a girl if you be praying. It's a girl.
Yes, a healthy girl. Healthy girl.
We need dairy cows on the farm in Hawaii. So that would be
a big project in Hawaii. There are no other belted cows in Hawaii. So this is a big repopulation project here in Hawaii with our nonprofit for the cows. But you know what I noticed about this, I feel like even though we're reading the word talents, what you shared with us, Bonnie, about how much a talent was worth, $1,400,000. To me, that looks like it's a financial. We're like spiritualizing it, but it looks like it's a financial amount of whatever he's brought into their hyene, their lives. Like, yeah. I'm thinking about the woman who was there was famine in the land, drought, and she had no money, and the prophet told her to go and borrow jars so she could sell oil. And she had just a little bit of oil. She had something that could be sold. So there was a physical parameter. YaHuWaH was meeting her physical needs with something she could work to sell. And he just kept the faucet turned on for the oil as long as she had jars to pour into. Right? It's financial. It's a financial amount that the master left with her to do something. So it's like, they'll tell you, you can't start any business without some sort of, collateral to start your business. If you're going to be a babysitter in life, you've got to have money for your gas and maybe, a budget for mac and cheese and peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I don't know, but you can't just make nothing from nothing. YaHuWaH gives you your raw ingredients to then go work with. It might be tomato seeds. Seriously, you can grow tomatoes if you got tomato seeds, and then you can sell them and get your milk and your butter and so on and so forth, whatever you need. And evidently with the miraculous power, by the way, because by the way, is growing a tomato not require miraculous power? It does.
And that was that word for ability. Yeah, dunamis, G 14:11.
Yeah.
That was just, and this word abundance, John 10:10, one of my favorite scripture verses. He will give you, we're meant to have life and have it in abundance.
Yes. We have to be in agreement with that. I see a lot of people have trouble being in agreement with that verse. And so I think it's important. Look at Bonnie, she's got it. Did you say John 10:10? Yep, there it is. It reads a little bit different in the Hallelujah. It says, the thief does not come except to steal and to slaughter and to destroy. So that's what the enemy does. If you got somebody trying to steal and slaughter and destroy, that's an enemy move right there. That's an enemy tactic. But YaHuWaH says, I come that they might possess high, and that they might possess it beyond measure. Beyond measure. That's some miracle power right there. That's such a great verse, Bonnie. That needs to
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. That and Isaiah 41:10.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
That enemy, he's such an adversary. But YaHuWaH is our advocate. YaHuWaH is our advocate. He says, I am the next verse, I am the Tob shepherd. The Tob shepherd lays down his high for the sheep. But the hireling, not a shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. And the hireling flees because he is a hireling and is not concerned about the sheep.
Oh, we're talking about hirelings here. Yep. The servants. Yep.
Yep. Hirelings and the servant. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a hireling, for instance. He fled. I mean, I think that's interesting. We're talking about this one that, he was so afraid. Or he says he was afraid. Like that's what he's telling himself. He's afraid. But he's not concerned about the master's stuff. He's like, the master wants more than he gave him. He's not just giving him it to hold. He does, if we could put it in a school analogy, he gives him a piece of chalk. He expects some equation on the board when he gets back. Not that he stuck the piece of chalk in a drawer. Do something with that chalk. It's yours to do something with.
Reminds me, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, these days we have memes are mightier than the word.
Yeah, right.
I make a meme,
Can you imagine all the amazing things you could do with a piece of chalk? Like you can communicate. You could make money with what YaHuWaH can put in your head. He could make money for you with that piece of chalk.
I think about the sidewalk artists that do the beautiful art on, just put a hat down to get donations for beautiful sidewalk art.
Yeah, or sandcastles. I've seen people do sandcastles too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And all those are the really all of the ingredients, even making chalk. The ingredients come on this earth from what YaHuWaH has given us. Sand, obviously, that's a no-brainer. It's right there at the beach. You just go get the sand. All right, so verse 29, for to everyone who possesses more shall be given, and he shall have overflowing, but from him who does not. So what's this word possess then?
Okay, let's go.
Because the one guy possesses it, or the two, they possessed it. And the other guy didn't possess it, evidently.
Yeah, what was the possessed? Yeah.
Yeah, what is the distinction on that?
Well, having to everyone be given, and he will have in abundance. The one, however, not having, even that will be taken from him. So what word are we looking? Is it the having word?
I think it's the having.
Okay.
might be a different word than the one who's in the beginning there given.
Oh, well, we can have a look. No. Having is ekontos,
They are related, yeah.
and having
Contos and echoes.
ekonti. So 2192 and 2192, it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Echo.
Yeah,
Now, what
echo.
is your echo? Oh boy.
Wow,
What is-
that's profound.
what are you echoing? Hmm.
All right, so have
Oh,
hope, possess.
Sounds like a wedding vow.
Yeah,
You wanted you actually said you wanted to talk about the wedding vow aspect in the 10 virgins too, didn't you? To have a child.
Mm,
Okay. We'll have
Wow.
another there. Interesting.
wow, that is interesting. So she's holding that investment right there with her body.
Yeah.
That's YaHuWaH there. I mean, how about that idea, that concept of holding what the Father's given you with YaHuWaH?
Hmm.
What does the word say that we commit our way unto him and he will bring it to pass?
He will give us the desires of our heart, I think.
There's that one too. I think it might be a slightly different verse, but yeah.
Okay. This is quite long. Okay, here we go. It sounds like a wedding vow. To have to hold.
So there's something about commitment to
Yeah.
a covenant with this master. So
Possessed
primary
with-
verb to hold.
possessed with. Because that's what we were looking at was possessions, wasn't it? You
Yeah.
know?
Possess it, to take hold of it. It's not possession as in a bad word, as in being possessed with a demon or something. It's to
Yes.
take hold of it.
Possess and possess, yeah. And it's there as well.
Yeah. So two of them took hold of it, and what they were given, then they are given more.
So you've got just a simple term he used. They used it. Two of them used their talent and one didn't. They've even got diseased there.
Yeah, and uncircumcised is also there.
Yeah, I've noticed that, yeah. Tremble. Oh.
Accompany and begin to amend. So evidently the state that it was given in, though a lot of money to us, it needed to be amended. It needed more than it was in order to please the master. He's just given the raw ingredients. He's just like, if we thought about somebody who's going to make a vase out of clay, right? Well, here's your lump of clay. The instructor gives you your lump of clay and you got your little potter's wheel going, and class is for 2 hours. The instructor leaves and comes back and is expecting you've made something. You've stuck it on that wheel. You put your fingers in the water. You've possessed it. You've had it in your hands for 2 hours, and your instructor is expecting something to be done when he comes back in the room. But if you're sitting there and you still got your clay and thought, well, it's going to get dried out, I'm just going to go stick it back in the bag, and maybe you could use it for somebody else in the future, you're going to get a 0 on because you didn't do anything with it.
Reminds me of baking bread, making some bread. You've got all your ingredients lined up, but they're not going to become bread unless you put in the labor. There's a labor component there.
Yeah, you got to get your hands messy. You got to put your hands in there and mold and fashion all that together. Otherwise, they're just sitting on your counter like they just came from the grocery store. So there's something about participating with YaHuWaH in what he can do. The miracle, the miraculous power comes from the Father. I'm seeing.
I want to look at this word overflowing. Where am I here? Abundance, yeah. It'll be abundance. Perisio, to be over and above, to abound. Exceed, surpass. Oh, there you go. And left over.
Exceed the extraordinary. Wow. That's beautiful. You know, there's a bit of a mindset in Christianity that we have to be poor and not have, and that is part of our, and of course we're expecting a different kingdom. This is not it. The wealthy should certainly be thinking about shunning all that and going for what YaHuWaH has for them. But this says here, I exceed the ordinary, the necessary. He's going to exceed it somehow, even if we just have the ordinary necessary. I'd say here on my farm, we've lived in military tents for 3.5 years. We don't live in a home, but I mean, we're doing above ordinary things. I think we're planting seeds and we are seeing them come up in 5 years and start producing fruit. And that is where miracles happen. We're paying off a small debt on our loan, a 5-year debt, and over time 5 years is gone. It's almost gone. And that is an extraordinary thing. Leftover, remainder.
There's your link to the feeding of the 5,000 and the 7,000. But we were saying, it was Terry before, she's gone now. She was saying there had to be something to those numbers, 5, 2, and 1, as well as the 5 and 5 equaling 10 in the parable of the virgins. But we were looking at, was it 5 loaves and 2 fish that fed one of the multitudes?
That was one of the miracles. Yeah,
that was an interesting parallel. Yeah, and it will be.
I mean, just the thought of expecting the miracle, right? Expecting the miracle. YaHuWaH knew the miracle was going to happen. He knew it was going to happen. That everybody was going to be fed. There was going to be an abundance.
Here we've got this more than enough idea again. We saw that in Moshe when they were building the tabernacle, and I remember exclaiming, just to have that mindset that he will ask and you will receive. He will provide over and abundantly, pressed down, shaken up, and overpouring. We have more than enough in him, but we need to grab onto that and hang on to that, don't we?
Yeah, we need to believe that YaHuWaH is about more than enough for us. If we bring him our best efforts, and that's really like everybody can bring their best efforts. That's not like, well, I don't have that, so it's too bad for me. You can't do anything with me because
what's
I don't have this.
superabound? I haven't heard this word before. Superabound. That's in quantity or quality. Oh,
superabound.
Sometimes having a quantity of something isn't great, but to have quality, is beautiful.
How about excess? Be in excess.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a lovely state? Yeah.
So this isn't about criticism of whatever we've done in our lives. There's not a thing we can do to change our past, but what we can do is we can change our today, because YaHuWaH says rather, his mercies are new every morning. So that is, I think that's maybe what Leah was talking about. We need to see the Father as a loving Father. his mercies are new every morning. But guess what? There is that time when he comes back and there's going to be a reckoning as to what he gave us and what we did with it. So like start today. His mercies are new every morning. We bring him our best efforts, and he's gonna add our best efforts with his super abounding power. You can't get a better deal than that. There is no better deal than YaHuWaH. Exceed, excel, increase. So this is what YaHuWaH wants. And it's not a hateful master. He's giving us his word so we can see how his kingdom operates, how his reign operates. He takes what we've got and he makes more with it. As long as we're participating with him, we've got to bring him our best and participate with him. And then he's going to super abound it all.
The other thing I was thinking of was about like the investment and the return on investment expected with the military and the hire of military personnel.
Can you expound on that, Bonnie?
Well, my stepson was signing up for the military, and they were talking about contracts about, how they expect you, they will pay you, they will train you, but they expect you to stay and work for them for 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, to get that money back, to make that money back. We are meant to be watchmen, soldiers for YaHuWaH, and
yes,
that return on investment. Where is it over here? What is that? If somebody wants to invest in you, so like you get a job somewhere, and you're expected to show up. You're expected to, KPIs and things, and be productive. And the worker that doesn't do those things is the wicked and lazy one that is not producing, not functional in that system, the job, the workplace, whatever it is. And I see a parallel there with what YaHuWaH wants with us.
Yeah, it's kind of like, just imagine what he can do with your day. I'm pretty sure if you bring your best to YaHuWaH, you can't even fathom what he can do with your day.
And we don't want to be, the worthless worker. It just like, I remember I was at a job. I started a new temp job one time, and I went around the office and everyone was telling me what their names were, and I'm trying my best to remember all these names. And there's this one guy, I said to him, "Oh, well, what do you do here?" And admittedly, he was a young adult. He said to me, "As little as possible." And I'm like, okay. Like if I was your boss. Anyway.
That's sort of the opposite idea, but that reminds me of a guy I used to work with, and he was a Christian, and people would ask him, "How are you?" Just the normal thing you'd say to somebody. And every time I would hear him say, "Better than I deserve." And that was his humble perspective of how he lived his life. Better than I deserve. You who has been so much better to me than I deserve. Well, so maybe we pass this now.
Yeah, look, moving on, we get the sheep and the goats. Do we want to go there?
Yeah, I do. I want to just kind of try to wrap this up, because there's really only so much to say about the end of it. But noticing that this is what we're coming out of it. We're coming out of these 3 servants, and it says, so that servant is going to be thrown out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, Mashiach says. And when the son of Adam comes in his esteem, and all the Kodesh messengers with him, the Malachim, the angels, then he shall sit on the throne of his esteem. So that's when he's going to sit on the throne of his esteem, he's saying. And all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. So we know that the Messiah's purpose, or his heart, is that he will leave the 99 and go get the one. So this is a loving shepherd. We've been told here he's a tob shepherd. He's a good shepherd. He separates his sheep. He's going to go get the one sheep, the one that got lost, separated, astray, went off in the wrong direction. He's going to go get that. That's his heart. Go get the one lost sheep. That's what we pray. And we ask the Father to please help us try to reach the lost sheep from his pasture. He says in Matthew 15, verse 24, he came only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So if you haven't seen Identity Crisis, that's a great place to start. So he's going to set the sheep on his right hand, the goats on the left. Then the sovereign shall say to those on his right hand, come, you Barak of my Father, inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So the shepherd's going to separate the animals right there. And he calls YaHuWaH the sovereign. He doesn't say I'm the sovereign. He says the sovereign, that would be YaHuWaH, shall say to those on his right hand, come, you Baruch of my Father. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Let me see. The sovereign would be YaHuWaH.
It's very much that riddle of David, isn't it? My father said to my master.
It's like who's talking to who about who? Yeah. So come you. So he's the sovereign is also the tob shepherd here. He'll say to those on his right hand that he's just separated, come you Baruch of my Father.
So that's got to be Yahushua.
Yeah.
YaHuWaH. Hang on.
Yeah.
I've got the Hallelujah scriptures. You do too. Verse 34. What do we got?
It says I'm in John. Never mind.
Verse, Matthew 25, verse 34.
All right, I got it. Then the sovereign shall say to those on his right hand.
Abi, I've got Abi.
What, Bonnie?
I've got Abi, Aleph Bet Yod. That's my father.
My father, yeah. Oh, you're looking at the Hebrew on there. Got it.
Yep.
Inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
And the Hamelech, yeah, Hamelech, which is the sovereign. Yep. Or we would normally say the king, but we don't like that word, but we say the sovereign. So we've got Hamelech for the sovereign, and we've got Abi for my father.
Yeah.
So who's talking? Who's talking here?
Yeah, it's Yahushua. The reason we don't like king is because ing is a deity. And of course, we have it in our English language as we are walking, running, talking, playing, singing, sleeping.
We are doing everything to another deity, aren't we then?
Even thing and everything. Yes, we've got ing everywhere. So the sovereign, you'll notice that it doesn't end in the ing, but ign. Sovereign and reign is what the restored name translations use most often. The ISR and also the Hallelujah scriptures, which is excellent at taking out the pagan deities from the scriptures. So Abi is my father.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can see that yet, but yeah.
We see it.
Yeah.
So come you Baruch of my Father.
Sorry.
Inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. I mean, that's just a profound thought all in of itself. The reign was prepared for his children from the foundation of the world. It was prepared for the sheep. It was not prepared for the goats. The sheep are invited in. Like the sheep are going. The goats, they don't want to go. The goats, it's not for the goats. But the sheep are going. So we have to deal with the fact that there are sheep and there are goats. It tells us right here. There's sheep, there's goats. The sheep are going to go on the right hand, the goats are going to go on the left. Look over and notice that, goat over on the left, it's a goat.
Yep.
It might be your favorite friend, uncle, cousin, neighbor, but if it's on the left, it's a goat. If it's on the right, it's a sheep. It might be someone you don't like, someone you've had conflict with that you haven't resolved, it's like, but it's a sheep. So we have to address those issues. Like YaHuWaH is the one who decides who's the sheep, who he's calling. The son had said that nobody can come unless the Father calls them. So that's often where I start with praying for somebody is, Father, your son said no one can come to you unless you call them first. So I'm asking you to please call them. Your son said he would leave the 99 and go get the one. He would leave the 99 coins and go look for the one that was missing. So there's a coin analogy again, a money analogy. Your son said he desired to heal. So I'm asking you to please heal according to your will. So then, so here again, so now we've got the sheep and the goats. Now he's telling us how he was using to, this is how I'm reading this, what he's using to distinguish, is this a sheep or is it a goat? It says, well, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you took me in. I was naked, you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me.
Let me just.
So it looks like that's what he's using to decipher, is that a sheep or is that a goat?
So this whole idea,
Yeah, 35 and 36.
you gave me, you clothed me, you visited me, you gave me,
Came to me.
mm,
You took me in verse 35. You took me in.
yeah.
And they're like, we didn't even know that we did that for you. When did that happen?
Yeah, it wasn't obviously you, it's
Yeah. When did we see you a stranger and we took you in?
didn't realize that in doing that we did it for him or to him.
Yeah. They didn't realize it.
Yeah.
But he's saying you did it to me. And then if we go beyond that, Bonnie, to the last of it.
No, I'm just going to get rid of that. Yeah, you get the idea there that in showing love to others,
Yeah.
we're actually worthy of so much more. And this is like the gift of hospitality.
And also, we've just come out of the 3 talents. So he's talking to people who had the ability to do those things. They had the ability to visit somebody in prison. Like if you know someone in prison, you can write them a letter. Somewhere in here, I don't think it was right here, said, no, it wasn't. I was in some of the epistles yesterday, and it was recent. I was reading about it, but it said, visit those in prison as if you are chained to them. Like
Whoa.
that's pretty specific.
That's very specific. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really very specific. That's not write a letter once a year.
Whoa, look at this. Look
Have
at
them on
this.
your heart.
Look at this.
Yeah.
The goats. That's the goats he's talking about there. And you know what? There's this thing that I can't, it's just hard for me to wrap my brain around. There's this thing in pop culture at the moment about the goat. You are the goat. you know, the greatest of all time. And I'm like, people are slapping each other on the back and calling each other goats.
That's crazy.
It's just like, what? When I saw that, I'm just like, what's goat? I think I heard it in a sporting context. And I'm like, what's goat? It's like the MVP, the most valuable player on the field. It's like, no, you're the, yeah. And so people in a sporting context are now using goat, meaning the greatest of all time, and people that is spilled over into regular life with workmates as well. And it's like really, or is it just here in Australia? It made me go, ugh, simply because of the sheep and the goats idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard it so much, but sometimes a little bit sheltered. I don't have regular news, so if I see
No,
it
this is people talking. This is people talking to each other.
yeah, if I see it on Twitter or something, then it'll kind of hit on a radar for me. But otherwise, I haven't noticed that.
Yeah.
But interesting. So here we're clearly talking about the goats, the ones on the left hand. And he says, "Go away from me, accursed ones, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his messengers." So we can clearly see that the one wicked, lazy servant is going to be equated to a goat here. Not because he wasn't, in his case, he wasn't investing what the master had given him to invest, and he had multiplied it with his power. But here also these goats are, in other words, they're both going in an everlasting fire. So that's what they have in common. So I'm equating him to a goat here. And then again, the percentage there would be 33% of the whole is what we're seeing a picture of, a template of. But this is the one who's not visiting those that are lonely in prison, not feeding the hungry, and not giving a drink. They're just not caring. There's no compassion there. There's no compassion. Compassion is not on this menu for the goat. And neither
it's
is
all about, hey, I'm the greatest of all time. Me.
Yeah. And so this one says there's an everlasting fire prepared. And it's for the devil and his messengers, and that's where the goats are going. So yeah, there's the goat over there on the left-hand side. That's where he's going, where the devil and the messengers are. It just is what it is. Like, you don't get into the kingdom of heaven and live evidently like the devil. You don't live in an environment where somebody's hungry and you give them no food, and they're thirsty and you give them no drink, and they're a stranger and you don't take them in, and they're naked and you don't clothe them, and they're sick or in prison and you don't visit them. That's not what the sheep do. So I think there's sort of an equating here between the sheep who invested the money and the ones here who are on the right hand side, the sheep who are maybe that's the big investment there. They're hungry and they're giving them food, and they're thirsty, they're giving them drink, they're taking them in as when they're a stranger, they're clothing them. Maybe that is one way that they are investing what the Father's given them, right? And then verse 46, "And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into everlasting high." Is that what it says about the wicked or the foolish virgins as well? That they're going into the everlasting punishment? I think it does.
No, just that I do not know you.
Okay, I do not know you.
So that's the end. Verse 12 was the end of.
So verse 10
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
and while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. So I think that equates them to the sheep there. Is that how you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, those that go in. Yep. And again, it's the parallel of Noah's Ark.
Yeah. It's
Safe in the ark with the master.
right-hand side. Those that end up on the right-hand side are these three stories.
Yeah.
And as well as those on the left-hand side, they're also represented here 3 different times, 3 different ways. I mean, it's really 3 different ways, it looks like. The first one, they didn't bring oil for their lamps.
Worthless servant is thrown us out of darkness. I don't know where the parable of the wedding feast is in the Surah, the Gospels, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing, you know. You come in, you come in, you're invited in. You've got to have the right clothing on, or you're outside in the outer darkness with weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. So it reminds me, Bonnie, about Tez is saying we bind ourselves to him. We covenant with him. We want to be in alignment with him and do everything we can to please him. Do everything, you know, there's that phrase, but for the, I'll say favor, not grace, but for the favor of YaHuWaH, there go I.
Yeah. Over in live chat, I've got Christy actually, who said, told by my parents to give more than a day's wages of work and you will always have a job. 1, you are not costing your employer. 2, you are making the employer money for your service, which is lovely if you've got a righteous master. If you don't, well, then there's a whole nother kettle of fish. But yeah.
Yeah, the scary thing about having the devil as a master is a lot of people don't know they have the devil as a master. They're just thinking they're doing things for themselves, and it's a place of deception, great deception, and not loving your neighbor. We can say that it's a place of not loving your neighbor, because YaHuWaH calls us to love our neighbor. And very much what this chapter is about, loving our neighbor and about partnering with YaHuWaH, bringing our best efforts and seeing what YaHuWaH is going to do with what he's given us to not own, but take control of, take authority over and do something with it. Do what he calls us to do with it. Pray about it. He'll guide us. Instead of just figuring things out on our own, which is what the lazy guy did. He just like, well, I just figured this and I figured that and I figured the other. And so this is what I ended up doing.
Yeah, it's all about verbs here, all about action. So look in here, verse 40, you've got you did it. And in verse 45, you've got you did not do it. It's all about the action.
Yeah, you did not visit me. You did not clothe me. You gave me no food. You gave me no drink. Yeah. All right. Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about on this Matthew 25? Otherwise, I think we've finished Matthew 25. We've talked about working with the parables, working on the parables, working on our understanding of the parables of Yahushua. We've covered Matthew 24 and Matthew 25 now. And I think we could just go to I think maybe go to the beginning, or do you want to just go subject by subject? We might miss some that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about in verse 26 that Yahushua said to his taught ones, you know that after 2 days the Pesach, the Passover, takes place, and the Ben of Adam is to be delivered up to be impaled. Yeah. So we go on to what happens.
Well, so do you think we should start at just the beginning to go through the parables? Sherry had suggested that we go through the parables of YaHuWaH, and I thought it was a great idea. Should we just start at the beginning of Matthew and keep going through that way? And
Well, they're not just in Matthew.
well, I know there may be some in other books as well, and we can definitely cover it in each of the books as they appear. We could also
There you
get
go. The parable of the sower is very similar to what we've done today, and that's in Matthew chapter 13.
okay. So you want to go subject by subject then?
Well,
We can just get a
don't
list
know.
of his
See, it's hard. See, what do you guys want out there in video land?
yeah.
Let us know. What do you want? What do you want picked apart? You know, it's like, you know, this stuff about the sheep and the goats, left hand and right hand. Is it the left hand? You've got a being sitting on a throne going, okay, there's my right and my left, or is it us looking at the throne, our left and our right? So when we're going up to the throne, we want to go left, don't we? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he said right. Didn't he say my right hand?
Yeah, I thought he said.
And then of course we don't really know until we check the it says then
His
the
right
sovereign
hand.
will say to those on his right hand, his right hand. So yeah, his right, if we're looking at him, that would be our left
So
direction.
we want to go left.
I mean, the
It's
decision
tripped up at the last hurdle.
yeah. But by how he is separating his sheep and his goats. And you know, not to say there is here he's telling us it's not just sheep and goats. This is what the goats do. The goats are not caring for their neighbors, right? They are living life as if they're not going to be bothered by their neighbors in need. That's how the goats
self-focused, yeah.
Self-focused. We can't just say, because goats are also clean animals in the scriptures. Goats are also were also offered as a sacrifice. There were goats that were used on the day of Yom Kippur. One was sacrificed and one was called the scapegoat.
They're clean animals.
Yeah, they are clean animals.
Goats are still clean animals.
Goat means strong. So in a sense, in Hebrew, so in a sense, to think about what does the goat do or not do? Well, the goat is not caring for the neighbor, or in other words, you know, some of you who was sheep there, he's not caring for the neighbor. So that is considered a goaty thing to do. So much for slapping the, you know, sports guy on the shoulder and calling him a goat. You know, it's a little bit
it's almost idolatry. You're lifting somebody up and putting them on a pedestal.
Ignoring what somebody else needs and not just being partaking in the place that they're at and in their lack, and when they're down, kicking them when they're down. It's that kind of a concept, right? Or ignoring them altogether. That's what is called a goat.
And look, sheep have their negatives too. They're dumb as dog doo-doo, some would
Yes.
say.
Yeah, and they're not strong. They're not strong. We've had sheep
Yeah.
before, and man, they're such a pain. They can keel over and die, you know, in childbirth, and they're just more fragile. The goats are strong. The sheep are fragile, and they can be dumb, and they can be they can get in Hawaii, they can get like maggots up under their fur and stuff, right? Because it's a humid place. Yeah. And you know, there could be stuff they got to deal with, and the scriptures talk about YaHuWaH even separating the sheep from the sheep. So there's that concept as well, that you got the fat sheep that are stepping all over the more frail sheep and living off the sheep, and you know, you can have issues in sheep too. Sheep aren't perfect either. But YaHuWaH calls them. YaHuWaH has a heart for them. That's the important thing. Okay, so I heard, and I shared this with Bonnie, and maybe we'll just stop here, but and please, y'all, if you have something we're talking about the parables of YaHuWaH. We either go in some sort of a chronological fashion or through the book in a fashion, Matthew 1 to so on and so forth, and try to grab them all that way, using that kind of as our base text, and we can go to the other Visor, the other gospels as well. But email us at alightuntothegentiles@gmail.com and let us know if you want us to go one way or another, and we'll take it up with ourselves if we don't hear anything. So
Yeah.
but I'm gonna share a story I heard on another radio Christian pastor yesterday, and it was very impactful to me. And I was telling Bonnie, is like, I should have, before I got on the camera, I should have written it down, because I've got that absent-minded professor's brain. I forgot what it was, but the Father brought it back to me. It was called Focal Point Radio, and I actually reached out to them on Facebook in their group to try to find the teaching, because I thought it was so impactful. But the guy talks about an analogy. He's like, let's say there's a really wealthy guy, right? This is sort of like the master idea here. He's really wealthy, and he has invited you and your spouse, or you and your best friend, or whatever. He's invited you to this huge shindig he's throwing, and it costs $40,000 a ticket to get you in there. And everybody that's a who's who is there, and you are just having the best day, yacht races, whatever, your imagination just painted the picture. It's amazing, and it's the most amazing day ever. It's a huge Cinderella kind of story, right? It's just awesome. And you trying to pay back that host for what he's done for you, this honoring that he's done for you, and you pull a couple of dollars out of your wallet. I mean, that's going to be such an insult, such a slap to his face, right? But if he's got a kid, and the kid's looking at the Gumball machine, and all the kid's got in his pocket is some lint. And you're like, I could go over there. I've got these 2 quarters. So I got these 2 quarters, and I could give him the quarters and he could get his gumballs. It's going to be great. I'm just so excited that I'm able to be here. His father has honored me in this amazing way. So I'm going to go over there, and I'm just going to give this kid the quarters, and he's going to put them in the machine. His face is going to light up. It's going to be great. And so you go and you do that, but the host sees what you did. And the host is so excited because you have blessed his son. And his son is he's starting to zing with the sugar from the gumball and everything. And he's so excited. He's like, what if that kid is like just the worst brat? You've never seen a bigger brat. This kid is so spoiled, is just reeking of just bad attitude, and just, he's just mischief. Maybe he's got tattoos everywhere. He's like, he has not used those blessings that his father has brought into his life just by being virtue of his own son. He's like, this is a kid. I'm giving you a little bit more of a picture, because the picture that they gave in the story was a 4-year-old. How bad can a 4-year-old be, right? But this is one kid. You don't want to see him in a dark alley, right? But he really wants the gumball, or he wants a soda out of the soda machine and chips. You go over there, and kid doesn't deserve it. This kid needs a spanking, maybe locked up in his room on restriction for a month or 2, right? But you go over there, and here's your, $5. Have at it, kid. Or here's $25. Go and get you and your friends some drinks and chips out of the machine, and y'all go have a good time, right? And the host sees you treat his son that way, even though his son doesn't deserve it, right? But you've so warmed the host's heart because you treated his son well. And so the scripture that he was talking about is in 1 John 4:5, and he's talking about YaHuWaH died for us, therefore love each other. He doesn't say YaHuWaH died for us, therefore love me back. I loved you, I gave my son, he died for you, therefore love me back. No, he says, he died for you, I loved you, I gave you my son, therefore love each other. Like, that's the big test.
Yeah.
Love each other. So,
And I said to you, when we mentioned that the other day, I said to you, it sounds like a pay it forward type of concept, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. I thought it was helpful. I thought it was helpful in my understanding of things too, that YaHuWaH doesn't ask us to love him back. He's like, I mean, he does. It is in his word that we love him, but it's also in his word that we love our neighbor. And he talked also in this teaching about how, if I get a hold of it, I'll put it in the description so y'all can listen. Obviously not a restored name translation, but some amazing facts from the word. He talked about David. David and Jonathan had made this covenant of chesed, which is loving, merciful kindness, that forever their generations would be honoring to each other's children, right? Each generation would be honoring to the members of that family, the descendants. And so shortly after that, Jonathan dies. And David sends out his servant to go see, are there any descendants of Jonathan alive? So they find this one descendant who was lame in both feet. Okay. He could be, and David didn't know. David didn't know what he was going to, what was going to be found. This could be this could be the star athlete. This could be the one that became famous and wealthy. But no, this guy in an agricultural world, to be lame in both feet, you got nothing. You're waiting for, something horrible to take you down, right? But he came in and he sat at the king's table, and David took care of him. David took care of him because he had made this covenant kindness, this covenant of kindness with Jonathan, his friend that he loved. But he saw Jonathan as an extension of YaHuWaH's blessing him, YaHuWaH taking care of him. Therefore, he was going to take care of Jonathan's son. So, hope that's helpful.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And an allegory, do you call it then? Like a picture of?
Yeah, and we did a study on the word parable, and it came out that parable has something to do with power and taking dominion. So I think that's huge. That's a huge, deep word to look into. We're not going to go into it now. We've gone into it before. I don't know if it's been on live stream or personally, but we can all study the word. You can study up parable, and that's what will be brought forward. Dish on a platter for you there. Parable is a strong word. It means more than we've been told it means.
Yeah.
So I thank Christy for being over in our YouTube audience and text there.
She's gone now off to feed the animals.
Yep.
And Marie has actually said she loves that story, the one of Jonathan's descendants being brought in. I cry every time I read it. And Tessa has actually said, this is why we pray for our enemies.
Yes.
We need to pray for our enemies, yeah. Because we never know, do we? We never know what the calling is on their lives. Or who's going to come in at the last minute. Switch. We have the right to switch sides, even on the deathbed.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. His mercies are new every morning.
You're going to have to go and find that scripture now, because you've said it 6 times or so now.
Right, I do. I will. All right, y'all. Shalom. Love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one next week.
Hi, everyone.